Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here, back again with another tool review for you. Recently I got an amazing, wonderful two-post lift from Bendpak installed in my shop, and I absolutely love it. But let's face it, not all of you have a garage, the space, or the means to have such a lift. For that, I have a solution for you. This is the QuickJack from Ranger Products. It is the BL5000. It is a car lift. It has a 5,000 pound capacity and is very portable and will fit in many places. So if you need a lift and you don't have the space, like I was talking about with my two-post lift, this may be your solution. Let's open these boxes and check out our parts. Now it's all out of the box. Feels like Christmas a little bit. It comes with some very good detailed instructions. Strongly suggest you read through them first. It doesn't look like the assembly is going to be all that difficult. I'm not going to cover it in detail here. It's actually covered quite well here. I'm just going to cover sort of the bullet points. But it's interesting that this unit here is very similar to my big lift, and that this unit almost looks identical. Electric motor, the valving, hydraulic reservoir, up and down. Looks like we've got to remove the shipping plugs from the cylinders now that we have everything removed from the boxes. And then start installing some fittings, and then we install fittings on the hoses, and then we assemble everything, fill up the reservoir, do a little testing. Actually, we add a little bit of compressed air in here as well, so you're gonna need some compressed air. Looks like an Allen wrench, 2 quarts of transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid, and well, we'll figure out the rest as we go. Also, some of the fittings require the use of Teflon tape, but the ones we're installing now don't, because they have O-rings already in place. So we're going to leave those alone, but you're going to need some Teflon tape for some of these other fittings. I'm going to install these 90-degree fittings on these cylinders. They say to install them at the 10 o'clock position. One thing to note, these have O-rings on them. I'm just going to take a little bit of automatic transmission fluid, oil or something, and just put it on these O-rings just to give them a little bit of lubrication. I don't like to install O-rings dry if I can avoid it. It's a 3/4, by the way. Next up, we have some Schrader valves to install on these cylinders. And once again, we have a plug to remove. Now when installing these valves, we need to put Teflon tape on. This one here is 7/16. We'll remove the cap later. I just want to keep it there for now so I know where to find it. I'm repeating all these steps on the other side also. The instructions say, now that I have these air fittings installed on these cylinders, to fill them up to 50 psi, and not more than 50 psi, just 50 psi. There we go. That right there is just a shade under 50. We will now fasten the power unit to the carrier. Comes with 2 bolts. I believe they're not 9/16. Close enough. Okay, I just installed it backwards. I'm gonna flip it around. Real quick, in the instructions, it shows like a spacer block underneath this, because there's no way that I can bolt this down the way it is now. I needed some kind of spacer to go between this motor assembly and this. I was just having a heck of a time trying to get it to work. Well, I believe I found the solution, at least for part of it. What I found with the instruction sheet was this bag with these 2 spacers and these longer bolts. I suspect this is what I'm going to need. I'm going to try it like this. Well, I now have the power unit attached to the carrier. Now we're going to attach some fittings. And for that we have these 2 little guys here, which will then attach to these other fittings. Before I install these, I'm going to install the Teflon tape on these threads. I don't need to on these because there's an O-ring here, but I'll install the Teflon tape on these threads before installing them on the power unit. That'll make things a little bit easier. Instructions say wrap it around in this direction. It's actually better to cut Teflon tape than it is to try and rip it. Much cleaner. Let's get these guys installed. Just remove the shipping plugs. A little bit of transmission fluid on the O-rings. This one's a 17 millimeter. Got to clean your funnel before you use it. Don't want to use a dirty funnel. Now it's time to fill up the power unit. 2 quarts of ATF should do it according to the instructions. Done. Now I'm going to take the other pair of hoses that came with it and install female ends on both ends with some Teflon tape. Here's the remaining ones. So the male ends will actually go on another hose. But all of these need to go on these. That was dramatic. And just like everything else up to now, we're adding Teflon tape. Isn't it exciting watching me put Teflon tape onto stuff? Cool. It's a 17 3/4 that I already have. Hose fittings and connections complete. As long as I'm here on the bench, I got 2 more fittings, 2 more hoses. Put those things together. Now that I have these hose leads assembled with the quick fittings, I need to hook them up to the jack itself. And one of the things they made sure of mentioning was to make sure that it's routed in such a way to where it doesn't get pinched in the assembly in any way. Also, what was the other thing? Oh, you don't need any Teflon tape for this connection. Just going under. I'm going to adjust this down a little bit more so it's more flush. Like that. I just need to get another wrench. Same on the other side. Once again, I'm going to position it down just slightly. I think we're ready to plug it in and try it out. Might have to spread these hoses apart a little bit. Power unit. This just plugs into regular 110. It makes a noise. There it goes. I actually think we might be able to get a little more height here. I'm going to keep going. This is awesome. It really is awesome. Works better with some weight on it. The first vehicle to go on my 2-post lift was my Fairmont. First thing to go on this lift is going to be my Fairmont. It's kind of the inaugural lift vehicle. Now there's a couple of important things I need to share with you about using these jacks. First, when you go to position this under the vehicle, you'll note this is a lock bar. It's a locking device, as it says on the outside of it. There are 2 fasteners on the outside. I'm going to snug these up even more because I want this to stay in place. Right now, kind of moves around a little bit. That means that when I go to lower it down, I can lift it up and I can lower it down easily without it catching and the locks. But the other super important part is to make sure these are positioned on the outside. There's the vehicle there. So make sure these are positioned on the outside where you can reach them. You don't want to be reaching through underneath this thing to try and adjust these. So make sure these are on the outside. It comes with 2 different size blocks. I'm going to use the larger ones. I just want to get a little more height out of them. They also come with these smaller, lower profile blocks. Imagine if you had a lowered vehicle, these might come in particularly handy. But since I got plenty of space, I'm going to use these big ones. It just gives me that much more lift. Before I get this into position, I'm going to snug these up like I said. These are 3/4, by the way. This way this stays in position wherever I leave it. I'm going to do that to both sides. You'll need 2 wrenches because the bolt goes all the way through. These are actually not that difficult to move around because of the wheels on the ends. You can just sort of roll it into position. I got something else to show you. Now, some of you may have noticed these bars, and these make it much easier to put into position. I'll show you how to hook them up. Okay, we can maneuver these in position. You see this little channel here? It'll lock right onto this part of the lift. Just lift it up. Sort of drop it into place. And now we have all the leverage we need to get this into position. Now I want to position this so that my rubber blocks come in contact at your lift points under the vehicle, same place you would normally lift it. Now keep in mind that's going to move in an arc, so you might want to position it slightly ahead. And here's the one in the back. Ideally I want it to make contact somewhere in here. That should work. Let's do the other side. That should do it. Okay, let's get the hydraulic lines hooked up. You want to keep any dirt off these connections. Now that they're hooked up to the jacks, let's get them hooked up to the power unit. Let's plug it in. Just because y'all like me to be all scientific and stuff, let's measure its height while it's on the ground, and then after it's lifted. We'll call that just under 14 inches. You want to push the button? I know you want to push the button. Everything's hooked up, plugged in. All I've really got to do is push the button. However, I'm just going to raise it up a little bit, get it close to the body, see if it's making contact where I want to make contact, reposition if I need to, and then go the rest of the way. So far this side looks good. Everything's lined up where I want it to. This side's also looking really good. One more thing. I positioned those blocks as far apart as I could just to spread the load. Here we go. And that's it. Where has this thing been for the past 6 years? Let's get it down on the locks. And by the way, there are 2 positions. There's this one that's lower and this one's a bit higher. So you can, just sort of get it up part way to change tires or whatever really quickly. But take this bar, push it down so that it makes contact. I might need to lift it up a little more, but basically you want to put it in this cradle. You don't want to get under until you've got these locks set. And since I can bring the button all the way over here, I did. And now we'll let it down so it's resting on these locks. We're ready to work. It's about the coolest thing ever. Okay, well, we gotta try it out. This is a really great working height. I mean, I got I can move my arms, I'm on my creeper, everything I need, easily in reach. It's gone up to 24 inches, roughly 10 inches of lift is what you get out of it. I'm on my traction chair, and this is just a really nice working height to get in here. Take wheels off, do brake jobs, rotating tires, changing oil. Possibilities are endless and very portable. All right, let's get this lowered down. We're gonna have to raise it up a little bit to get it off that lock. Now I can just flip these up. And that's why you wanted them stiff, because when you're lowering this down, you don't want this falling into the locks as you're trying to lower it, especially if one side catches and the other one doesn't. That's bad news. So if they're stiff like this and tightened up, you can just flip them up out of the way when you're ready to lower it. Same thing over here. I can just flip it on up out of the way. Sure you don't want to push the button? Go on, do it. Do it. You know you want to. The DN one right there. Just push it. Good job. Makes whale noises too. I think one of the things that helps it lower is the air in those cylinders that we added earlier. And we're down on the ground. That didn't take long at all. Let's wrap this up. I got something special for you on this one. When this thing's not in use, it folds up out of the way really nicely. And just put all the other stuff here. Well, all right then. That thing is pretty stinking cool, isn't it? Yes, the BL5000 from Ranger Products. They do make one that's, I think, BL3000. I think that's a slightly smaller, lighter model. This is the heavier duty model for 5,000 pounds. Honestly, I was a little apprehensive about putting it together and, you know, all of that, seeing it in all those different boxes, but to tell you the truth, it was much easier than I thought it was. And the instructions were pretty clear, and that was also pretty nice. Really, it's just a matter of, you know, some Teflon tape, putting some fittings together and putting those in the right places, and bolting the assembly to the carrier. Okay, that's about it. So it's really simple to put together and assemble. I say this is great for somebody at the home garage. Racetrack, that's another thing where you gotta turn things around quickly. Here's another thing I thought of. If you're like a small shop and say you're working and one day you got all your bays are full, all your lifts are full, you get a weight or oil change or something like that that comes in, you can do this right out in the parking lot. As long as you run power to it, you're good to go. There's a lot of possibilities with this. Very portable. Throw it in the back of a truck, or I'd throw it even in the back of a hatchback and drive it around. But that being said, that may come into play here. As some of you may know, in the not too distant past, Bendpak brought to me this wonderful asymmetrical two-post lift. I absolutely love the thing, which means I probably won't be using this one as much. That being said, I talked to the people at Ranger and asked them if I could possibly give it away at this year's meetup. Yes, I have an annual meetup. The 4th annual one is this year. This is 2015, by the way. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to give this away to one lucky winner at this year's meetup. You heard that correctly. So if you come to this year's meetup, there'll be details down in the description for that, amongst other things, where to get this lift and all that kind of stuff. If you come out to this year's meetup, there's no cost to you. You just get handled a raffle ticket. If your number gets called, you go home with a lift. Just make sure you got room for it. Yeah, it folds up nice up in the corner and all that, but you're gonna need some way to get it back to wherever you came from. Outside of that, it's yours. That about wraps this up. If you have automotive questions, I would ask that you head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. Welcome video there to tell you about stuff. I post tool reviews every other Wednesday, so stop back and see me then if you're into these. If you wish to connect with me socially, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram, and I close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, stay dirty, and keep it lifted. I'll see you next time.